Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today I've got the man for you. Remember I said last week I was going to try and get me CLAUZEL, the
Dread dribbler.
The dread dribbler. Well, he's here today. Let me take time to introduce my people. Narada Wilson, welcome to the set, Narada.
Yes, always a pleasure to be here, Steve, and you did fulfill the promise, and I think the nation was eagerly awaiting, and we do have the man himself today. So glad to be here.
Appreciate you here too. CLAUZEL, the dread dribbler. Thank you for being here, bud.
I appreciate it much. Thanks for being here.
Welcome. Say hi to your viewers.
Hi to my viewers. And just want to say one thing. I just like to send out some condolences to a manager from Mokorapo who died like last week, Sunday gone. Was a very great guy, one of the best managers I've ever worked with, and condolences go to his family. And good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, good. We're so glad to have you because I've heard so much about you. Me and my uncle, like I said, your name came up in our program last week on the people who we don't know where they are. So we had to come search for you because your name was so big in our discussion. People who was supposed to be carrying national football on their back, and then they disappear. So I want to get your whole story. I've read it, but I want you to give us an idea on all that you went through, and then you could educate our viewers and your ups and downs or whatever made you take the roads, the path that you took. So let me start with life story. Like you were born, obviously, in Trinidad. What part of Trinidad you were born in and you grew up?
I was born in Gonzales, Port of Spain. That's a place between Belmont and Lavantil.
So all your life you were there?
Yeah, I was born there and I'm still there right now.
Still hanging out right there?
Yeah.
And you're doing some what kind of stuff you're doing right now?
Well, I retired this year from St. Anne's Hospital. I was a dietary supervisor, well, meaning like seeing about all the patients in St. Anne's Hospital, providing 3 or 4 meals for them per day, you know, overseeing all the staff, the stores, the food delivery workers, and, you know, laundry workers.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been in the system for since about 1987. So I retired. I was in pre-retirement from the 5th of June this year. But I turned 60, 20th October, which was last month.
Mm-hmm.
So my last day was I retired the 19th of
right.
October, because my birthday was the 20th. So I'm officially home right now. I'm just dealing with my football academy, because I love training young people. I love to work with young people, and most of my friends are young people. So, you know, I just love to work with young people somehow, you know, because I like to wise them up, and because you have a lot of young people that's going astray in this country. So I think they need another mentors to really get them up to the standard they should be, because I find young people are, you know, we satisfied with a lot of nonsense in this country, and, you know, I wasn't growing up that way, and I know you wasn't growing up that way, and
right.
You know, we do like to tolerate nonsense and stuff. So I try to get them up to a level that, you know, they can live in the society and be calm and, you know, love people and, you know, deal with people at a certain level, you know. So it's like that. So
elementary school football, did you play elementary school football?
To tell you the truth, while going to the first elementary school I went to was St. Margaret's Boys in Belmont. I had football in that school at that time, but I only spent about 4 years there, 4 or 5 years. I used to go and watch the school play, you know, that primary school leagues at that time, and I think that's something we're missing in the country right now. But I never really played much football in primary school, but I had been playing football at home and on the streets with the bigger guys. I always played bigger guys too, so maybe I think that is why I acquired all this experience by the time I reached college football, you know, because I played with a lot of guys, the Jelino brothers, some Rovers, and, you know, I used to go in Savannah and watch all these Coles and Malvern and, in front of the grandstand. I watch a little football there. So, I think that helped me a lot. And, I just fall into football like after that. After I went to start to go junior secondary, which is Mukrapo Junior Secondary. I was one of the second set of students went there. That a group before us, we were second set of 17. But I wasn't really interested in like playing football as such. I had more like athletics, like running and stuff, But, somehow after starting to play in the street with these guys and going about the football, I started to get interested in it. And, I had this guy by the name of Billy Evans. I think you might know his brothers too. They used to play soccer in the Port of Spain League too. Peacock and Delbert and these guys and them Evans brothers. And, he started to help, the youngsters in the area because we used to play in the street and he started to come and, tell us, like his formal group and started to develop us and, teach us a trap and, so I just got interested in it and, started working in it and even though I'd work in the street with them on the little field up here in Gonzales, I used to go home with the ball too and, practice a lot hitting the ball against the wall and so that's somehow that like strengthened my technical ability got strong. So, by the time I went into the like comprehensive school, because I spent like 2 years in junior sec, and then we went over to Mukrapo. We were the first students that went to Mukrapo because the school had when I went there, the school hadn't finished bill as yet fully. But we went in and I went to school with uniform and stuff because nothing was in place, that even these comprehensive schools had now started to come into, existence and, I ended up meeting guys, some who came from Diego Martin Junior Sec and different junior secs from different places, and we used to like sweat like in the halls and the little spaces that football.
Yeah.
So it started getting competitive because I was seeing like good young players too, like myself, from different areas, and but the principal started to observe that and just decided to get us into the college football, at least the second division, and we started to play and everything just kind of fall into place after that because, we used to be playing like small competitions in the school and so it was always competitiveness now and who from this area and who from that area. So everybody wanted to staff for the, people and stuff. But to me, I was never like, I never watched players and, tell myself, well, I'm better than this player. I never compare myself to new players, because I think all players have different characteristics. Mm-hmm. So, like Messi and these guys and Ronaldo, they compare these guys, but these guys are, top level players and, they have their own characteristics. So you can't really, weigh them. But, I just used to like to play. I just used to love to play. That was all about me, really. I'm just always a humble guy. Just, I was cool.
Right.
So, my demeanor used to be, attract a lot of people to me because they're like, this guy playing all this football and he always so, like, when I go in football, I feel like different human because when I get in that square, it's like, it's something mindset. Different. Go into the next zone,
Right.
And, I think this is what, like, pushed my football a lot. And the guys who I met there who were competitive as me. So we always try to outdo one another, but we were never selfish towards one another. So I think that is why we got all that all that experience and, well-being from that, because it was never about who was better than who, but we worked together and we achieved. So, we made the secondary schools got, the comprehensive schools got recognition due to that football and, this is where we are today.
I totally understand what you're talking about because it was the same in Point Fortin. You have a lot of ballers around you. But nobody had any jealousy for each other.
No.
We were all fans of each other.
A footballer is a footballer.
And what they do, right.
It's like
that. You know what I noticed, Narada? In Port of Spain, there was no elementary school real strong league like we did in Point because we had a real strong league. And every one of these footballers that I came up with, we were always competing against each other from elementary school.
Groups, yeah.
But that, because I had Latipi on the show, who didn't have much of that either.
Yeah.
So what was the reason for all this?
I think it had to do with to some extent, you watch the geographic of Trinidad, the makeup. I think Point Fortin and a lot of the isolated areas, so to speak, formed their own, leagues at a very young age to keep the kids in something, happening. And you all built a fan base and a support system from a very young age. Steve would talk about maybe 8, 9, 10 years old playing, where people would know all the names, and they played against
Right.
each other for maybe 10 years from at a young age, you know. And Port of Spain, it seems as though the schools were, one, focused on the education system. Two, I think some of the schools didn't have the infrastructure to ensure that the kids at a young age were playing, because, you know, you would talk about probably your introduction to football more being in a secondary school, when most of the guys in South Trinidad or in the far east rural communities would talk about, hey, we were competitive since the age of 8, 9,
Right, yeah.
playing in these leagues. So it's almost like it's more the streets or the communities that introduced you to football, whereas in the southern communities, there was some structure
Organized
at the
programs, yeah.
elementary
Okay.
age, you know. And that's why we see in the primary school league today that a lot of the times the southern schools are the ones being dominant,
yeah.
because the north schools are now getting
Right.
into
Okay.
the framework of it, you know.
Yeah.
Something you touched on that I would like to speak on is that you had older siblings that played football,
Yes, my older brothers played football.
and they introduced you to football, so to speak, or would take you around to play
Yeah,
the
they
sport.
took me around, and, you know, I was told when we were coming up in the car that the first international game I went to see was like Trinidad played Mexico in the Oval. I think Trinidad won that game 4-0 or something like that. And, you know, I look back on this and I say, like, you know, I watch Mexico now, and Mexico was in the first 15, but, you know, where's Trinidad? And, you know, that was like that was like 68, 69, somewhere around there, you know, could be around 70. And, you know, look at the development that Mexico has, and, you know, the teams go to win world tournaments, you know, competitions all over, and, you know, they're a recognized country, and they are always a threat in the World Cup. Because, you know, they're very articulate, and they play technical football. And I think, you know, they are one of the most dangerous teams in the world to underrate at any time, you know, point in time. So, you know, it's like
So
that.
because I'm trying to get to that, it seems that the characteristics of the player that you became that we would speak on may have developed from the fact that, and I heard Warren Archibald speak on this as well as yourself and other players, playing older guys from a younger age forced you to develop quicker. So by the time you were playing your age bracket,
Yes.
you were
You're a step
somewhat
ahead.
a step ahead, as well as, you know, I heard Archibald speak on it, playing on a muddy field with a lot of, you know, inconsistency in the
Yeah,
ground,
stone and
develop
stuff, yeah.
his, you know, dribbling
Well,
aspects, which yours was growing up in Gonzales.
Yeah, well, I played on a stone field, too, and, you know, that ball used to be like all over the place. But, you know, you get accustomed to it after a while. Like, it come like development, you know. When children playing, you allow them to play, though. You don't try to coach them while they're playing. So let them gain their own experience while playing. So things just come back to them, because, you know, children learn differently. Some learn by hearing, some learn by seeing, some just have a high IQ. So, you know, it's like that, you know.
You as a coach now, do you allow them to express themselves, or you kind of, because I'm not a big fan of coaching, because I find the coaches govern the kids and they're not allowed to express themselves. They have to pass and pass and pass. I said, let them express themselves, and then after they get the skill, then you can teach them everything else after that.
Well, personally, I do consider myself being a coach. I consider myself being a teacher of the game.
Okay.
You know, because, you know, you can't coach a kid that his technique is weak. You can't coach him.
Right.
You need to have a good, strong technique. You can't tell a player run down the right side and cross the ball if you don't demonstrate it. Or,
Right.
you know, so it's like that, you know. You need to, like, you got to get into the head of these young people, and sometimes you let them express themselves, but basically, you know, the football is like, it's rules and functions. So, you know, they start with technique. You know, you go up to tactics, you know, and you move on after that. So it's not like, you know, you just go on the field and do what you want, you know. So the older you get, you know, you get more, you start to teach them more tactics. But I think between the age of like 5 and 10, it should be basically technical work. Because, you know, if you don't have a technique, you can't last in the game, because the ball is the most important thing in the game. And if you can't control the ball, you have problems. So, you know, I think your technical aspect of the game is one of the most, like the basic thing that you football.
All right, let me come back to you, because we're running off on all the other coaching thing.
Yeah.
Because my viewers want to hear about Ian CLAUZEL. So when did the dream start for you? When did you realize, I've got something that's a little special?
Well, you know, it's just that, you know, to me, you know, as I tell you, my way of thinking is kind of different to people, you know. I just play to, I consider myself an entertainer as a player. I used to
Right.
like entertain people because, people want to come and see good football. And I just entertain because all the controversy that was around me, being this negative controversy, like, I have a dread and I too untidy to be a national player, that stuff was never bothering me because, to tell you the truth, I wasn't studying to go on a national youth team or anything like that. But it so happened that, you know what got me in the national youth team? The public.
Yes.
Public said, this man is the best player we have in the country, this man had to play for Trinidad. So I was like, but I wasn't really studying that because all these players who were national players at that time, I played against them in the college league. So I think the coach was like Roger Warner, he was the youth coach at the time. And he had an interview, and I think it was on television, and he said that, they asked him, how come CLAUZEL is not on this national team going to a tour to play CONCACAF? And they say that he's the best player we've seen in the country, how this man, nothing. The man said, I'm too untidy to be a national player. And I was like, okay. But I wasn't even studying that because I was studying to play for my school and, my community and the communities who coming out from my other partners and them. People used to come and have fun and enjoy the game. It was, it was really ecstatic, but,
So to touch on Steve, what age you think you heard the public saying, we going down to see CLAUZEL and Mukurapo play, or we want to see CLAUZEL? What age you think that all started? What age did you get introduced to the Mukurapo senior team, so to speak?
Well, I started to go there in 77. We still play, we were downstairs. When we got into the college, we were downstairs still. We were second division team.
Right.
And, we had a fan base because of the same people from Cocorite and my players from Cocorite, the people come in, people from Diego Martin, people from Gonzales, people from Belmont, all the people come in to see. And, when we started playing in the college league, we started to have a base because everybody had the supporters coming, and I think that's what we're missing now in football in Trinidad. People not coming to see individual players from individual areas, Some of them play leave an area to go and play, and nobody coming from the area to see them.
Right.
Like being a national player.
Right.
But in those times, people come out in droves because, before the standard was a bit high too. So, I know Trinidad people being settling for no nonsense. So, you want to see a good standard of football. So people used to be coming out. But after that, I think, when I realized that when we played in the Barclays Bank final, that was a tournament between upstairs and downstairs teams, all the teams, like a FA Cup. Right. Teams were playing in the upstairs.
Right.
And we ended up reaching the final. We beat schools that were upstairs and we were still downstairs. We ended up meeting Trinity College, we met in that game.
Yes, correct.
On St. Mary's ground. I think we gave them 5. And we were the team downstairs. Alvin Coney was commentating that game. And he was like, I scored the last goal of the game. I pick up a ball like from a half line and dribble the whole team and goalkeeper and walk in the goal post. And the man called me a king.
Right.
So I was like, okay. So people, I didn't hear it, but people who listened to the radio and stuff told me, like, this man calling me a king. Trevor Frederick, some up here, he ended up in the youth team together. And he told me that when we met in the youth team, he said, well, we'll call you a king. Boy. I was like, okay. But, I don't really thrive on these, things that people want to tell me, I is this and I could. I was a kind of humble person. I love people. I love human beings. I love to be, nice with people, I like a nice setting, I like people to around me to be happy. And, the hype about me wasn't really, I wasn't even studying that then, I just like, call Mukurapo game today, I want to go out and play with my kids, my partners and them and have a good time. They said that and the supporters, people come and tell me they're betting money on me and all kind of crap and, for real. But I never really get into that kind of, I just a player, I just a normal player.
All right, I have to take a break now, but when we come back, we'll pick up where we left off. Viewers will be right back after the short break.
When I'm here on the field, I just go into this maze. Some mind just go into this maze sometimes. I might be passing the ball and, believe, I like to, when I start playing a game, they call me the dribbler, but when a game starts for the first 5 or 10 minutes, me looking at the dribble body, I playing basic.
You're playing basic.
Because, I'm showing them exactly what I don't want them to see. So, after I play 2 or 3 balls, square or whatever.
You're watching ACTN, The Voice. ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. Ian, now, I never saw you play, but I heard so much about you. It's like I saw you, especially from my uncle who used to, as long as McGrath playing and the dread dribbler is on the field, he's taking off for work and he coming to see you play. So I want to hear about that little group that you guys had that was so special and some of the players that you support and cast, because you were done as the best ever in the Colleges League, whatever that means. And I know like you're a very humble guy and it doesn't matter to you, but they want to hear your mindset, how you thought, game time, all this kind of stuff. So tell me about any period, maybe from when you guys started from the second division to come up to the first, or wherever you want to start. But I want to hear some of that story.
Well, when we started playing in the second division, we played unbeaten. But in 1977, we won every game we played. And then we went on to win the Barclays Trophy. And, everybody was looking out for, like, they said, Alvin College instead of college giant killers because, we're coming up the next year. And the bigger schools, the St. Mary's and the CIC, they still had us down as a kind of, a team that is just like, who's Mokrapo? These guys don't come around, Correct. But we wasn't even studying that. The guys who I played with, Emerson Dubuson, Eric White, all these guys, Wendell Belgrave, these guys were brilliant players too, especially Emerson Dubuson. He was like, this guy, like, he have a football brain too by himself, people used to talk to me about me a lot and say that I was the best, but I think Emerson was even a better player than me because
Emerson
Dubuson, yeah.
Dubuson. It's a name
Yes, I read it was him, yes.
Yeah, this guy was a brilliant player, and I respect that. And Eric White also was a very good player. Me and him was the forwards. Emma used to play behind us. But Emma is a real articulate player. He could come forward, he could go back in defense. He was strong in the ball. He had a lot of different characteristics, I was a dribbler, I could dribble the ball. But Eric White was also a dribbler of the ball too. But we used to come for the ball and, we didn't used to wait for the ball. We used to come. So we always like have a triangle. So 3 skillful players in a triangle and moving. We get a lot of defenses can deal with cope with that. Yeah. So, we used to destroy these defenses and them because you never had one place at any time. It's always play and move. So it always have to be licking. But, after that it was like, we just started to, we loved one another so much. We were friends and co-players. So, everything just like came together, but not taking away anything from these guys. But, people always tell me about myself, but I tell them, they mustn't tell me about myself all the time. Right, real good players I play around too, and a team is not one player, a team is 11. So it's always like, it's about everybody. A team is 11 players, so.
But there's a driver of the bus.
Okay.
And you were the driver of the bus. They had men in the bus, you understand.
Yeah, I understand,
Yeah.
But, before a game and before I play a game, I used to play it in my head, and, I used to walk in the field before the game, and just walk certain parts of the field and, like if I pick up a ball here, I will do this and I will do that. And so, these things used to eventually they used to manifest when I come in the field because if I pick up a ball in that position, I will do the same thing I was thinking about before the game. So I think, players now, they do that. And even after a game, they don't play a game in the head and see, where the mistakes at. They just play a game and like, okay, that game finished and shit. So, they go to another game. But I think analyzing a game that they play, it could help in another game because you might see them realize the mistakes they make in that game, so it may come back. Just like the same development I'm talking about, You might see something and, somebody might tell you about it, but it will come back to you eventually, because you say, okay, I was in that situation already, so, to correct it, And, it's like that. And, with the crowd and the hype and the cameras and the interviews and, these things never really got to me because, I wasn't really it was never about me. It was never really about me. And, maybe I was like my parents and stuff and my brothers and so glad that, my name calling and I was on papers and, but these things wasn't really about me. But, now as a player, who started I didn't want him to be a coach even himself, I was working at the time, I became a coach by mistake. because I was working in the same health ministry, but I was at St. James at that time. And the principal of Mokwapo came with a kid who got damaged or something, so he met me there and he was telling me that, the under 16 team, they had no coach, nobody was there to coach them, and he decided to ask me to come over. So I said, well, I never even had any coaching experience before that. But, just I'm playing the game, I had certain things in my mind, and, I just went to them and, that's usually things I know, and eventually I ended up winning the under 16 national, without him. I didn't even do a course yet. And, when it happened, I realized, like, communicating with players and things is something more important than sometimes the work against them on the field. The communication might even be stronger than the drills and, because you had to get it in, you had to put things in the young people's head in this country, It's not like, you can tell them and just walk away. And actually engrave it into them. And, my players just play for me because I always deal with them and stuff, if they're having a problem, I will go and pull them aside and hold them and be emotional with them and, try to get things out of them that normally other people wouldn't do it, And, this is what helped me a lot as a football coach then.
But as I'm hearing you, and you had all the characteristics of a great player because you sit down and you analyze the game before and after and all of that. And all great players do that. So your preparation was perfect. You prepare for the game and you come out and execute. And if that didn't work for you, you go back and think about things that you could have done better and you analyze. But let me ask you a question. Because at one time in my life, I had to do dribbling as well because we didn't have no playmaker. But that's your game. Now, dribbling to me was instinct. Sometimes I do things and I go back and say, how did I do that?
Exactly.
Because you react to what came to you to explain
that's a step here. Well, I think that has to do with your fitness level too. At the peak of your fitness, you tend to, things just come automatically into systems, and it's after you do it, you're like, okay, I did that,
Yeah,
and it's happened to me already also. So yeah, you go ahead.
So, but no, so I want you to expand on that because most people think you go and you plan to do this. You don't.
No.
It just happened at a run of play.
Exactly.
If somebody gave you the right, then you go left. If you want,
of course.
And whatever. So I need you to expand on that. This is your show.
I think what we're trying to create, and I think that's what Steve did, and I also want to, what did we miss? What did we saw the dread dribbler coming onto the field, right? This is the guy with the Rastafarian hairstyle. I want you to give me an image of what did you go out on that field and do that people speak about to this day? What was it that we were coming to see?
Well, you were coming to see a player just destroying players.
What were some of the things you would do, for example? Give us a little walkthrough of.
No, well, as I tell you, I prepare for a game before I go on the field. But when I'm on the field, I just go into this maze. My mind just go into this maze sometimes. I might be passing the ball and, I like to, when I start playing a game, they call me the dread dribbler, but when a game starts for the first 5 or 10 minutes, me looking at the dribbling body, I play basic.
You're playing basic.
Because, I'm showing them exactly what I don't want them to see. So, after I play 2 or 3 balls, square or whatever, when I turn in a direction now, everybody feel, well, this man playing basic, so by when I do so, everybody heading so I go through the middle. So it's a kind of illusion, you understand, really? And I don't really dribble players, I just dribble space. Right. I push the ball and bring it back, and so the players be confused because of the movement of the ball and stuff.
They take the fake.
Yeah, changing directions and they're stopping and,
Right.
Sometimes I had the ball between my legs, sometimes I show them the ball. So, some of the biggest defenders are like, and by the time you start to go back on the heel, I know you're dead because, it's like a player defending going back. He can't stop me at all, like going past it for sure. So,
Again,
like,
and you say the right thing. I mean, from what I'm talking about, because football is attacking space.
Exactly.
Whatever space you give me, I'm going to take it and go.
Yes.
And you said everything you said is so right. So you had so much knowledge of the game. What stopped you from going forward with the game?
Well, I think basically, I had an injury also, but before I got the injury, I was going through a lot of discrimination because of my Rastafarian hairstyle, and I went to ESL. I was playing there as a young player, not as a professional. as a young player, now come out of school, at a youth team, so I was playing with them. But the Brazilian noticed me, Santa Rosa, I think was his name. He called me and said, you know, he need me to coach, train with the professional players because he realized my standard was like up to these guys, and you know, I started to play with them. The same Emerson, he was there. He signed a contract before I even got there. But when I came to the ASL as a young player, and the Brazilian saw me and he called me aside and said, you know, I need you to play with professionals. Your standard is like. And then I started like make the team, and you know, but Emma like he wasn't making the team, and he was a signed player, and I didn't sign a contract. But I just came up and I started to play. So it's like, you know, like players like Sammy and all these players, Sammy Lowland and you know, Granville and Stuart Charles and all these guys. These guys I play with in ESL. But you know, I was like, I just love playing the game, and you know, just. You know.
So you fade away though in the sunset.
No, well,
for what reason?
not to say that I fade away, you know, but I left ASL after a while. I went to ECM Motown. They were starting a kind of semi-professional. It was like offering to pay some kind of 18 players or something like that. So I went to that club. They called me. I went, but you know, training with the team and stuff. Plenty of the guys there, you know, none of them was playing there, and I scoring my goals, doing my thing. But it was a bias towards me also because the ECM Motown was a team that was in place already, but they just decided to do the professional system of it. And that's when I went in. So that players who were there all the time. And like it was like, when I went there and, you know, with all this hype I had around me, everybody was like, okay, CLAUZEL and things, yeah, but the players who were there, they wanted to keep these players. So they said that they were going to play like 18 players. You know, they told me I would have been player number 19. But none of the players there could have played better than me. None of them. And
Right.
I think that was because I've been a Rastafarian, I think.
You think so?
Yeah, of course.
How about maybe structure? I'll tell you why I was saying this. Because when I played for Police, I dribbled the ball a lot.
Okay.
And then I turned pro. And I went out. And when I started dribbling, hey, Steve, that's not what we bring you here for. To put the ball in the goal. That's why I'm paying these other guys for, to make, you know, so to take that strain off of me. So I had to change quickly, stop dribbling, to just changing my game to scoring.
Right.
So maybe that transition might have been what you needed to make. Maybe they want you to be a goal scorer. Or they want you to be a creator?
No, it wasn't even that, you know, because basically, I told you, I didn't consider myself a dribbler. I could dribble the ball, but I play, you know, basically, I love to pass the ball.
Right.
I could fit into any structure because
Right.
I have the understanding of the game. And I know the game is not about me alone, you know.
Right.
And it's not like, it wasn't like that because I was doing the right things. I was scoring goals for ECM. Motown, when we playing practice games, we training. I scoring goals, making plays. I could play like a midfielder also.
Right.
Because I was a runner,
Of
I
course,
could run.
yeah.
So it's not like, it wasn't like that, but I think it was the discriminatory part of the game that kind of tried to stifle me. Because somehow, a lot of, you know, people just get jealous of stuff. And so all the hype I had, a lot of people were like, oh, this Rasta man, everybody is this. So people wanted to like, to stem that stuff.
Just simmer down.
Yes, because, you know, maybe I was getting more attention than maybe too much people, but it wasn't my fault, really.
So
I just love to play, and people just like how I play, so it was like that, you know.
So
I didn't
maybe-
came there to take anybody's position or anything. I came there to work for my position.
But why did you like change team? Maybe that team didn't have it for you, but you could have gone to another team. What I'm trying to get at, what killed the drive for you to continue on, to express
But
yourself?
after the ECM Motown, I think that was the killing force at that time, because I was like, oh, come here watching all these players. I know these guys, some of them kind of sharp good, but it's because it was in the core of the ECM Motown players. They keep these players, so they just kick me out of the door because the time I was a 19 player. They was playing 18 players, the time I was number 19. So I was like, okay.
All right, yeah.
So I walked away from that because I realized that was nonsense. So, you know, when I see nonsense, I just know it and observe it and move away from it. So I move away from that. And I went to Superstar Rangers. I was playing there and, you know, having good success. But the thing about it, I never got called to the national team. And, you know, I think that was, everybody was like waiting for that moment now.
Right.
Maybe if that had happened, maybe I would have just like shoot off because, you know, then I would have started going playing more international games and, because I played against the New York Cosmos when they came here.
Right.
It had a Caribbean 11 that we had here and the New York Cosmos came and I was the only schoolboy that made that team. So, what is people trying to tell me? Come on.
And I agree with you because Narada, remember I say when somebody is get going, you have to open up the way for them to go. Anytime you stifle that can kill them. And maybe that's what happened to him.
Based on, I looked at, you look at the track record, just what you were saying, because Steve and I had this conversation before. It was about opening the door for young players that, whether with hype or without hype, the coach seeing it, get them into the national setup. They would work with the bigger players and they'll be able to express themselves. But you as the coach have to also know, hey, he's young, he's going in there. We have to let him, do what he has to do. And then when you watch the track record of Mr. CLAUZEL, it's ASL for one season, Motown one season, Rangers the next season. And then it just kind of injury and then that was it. And then there's a comeback that came some years later. But you're seeing the change which you're asking about. Why didn't you leave? But he did. Every season went somewhere else. But again, the stifling of this young schoolboy who has all this hype around him. Not, troubling the core players. So we kind of just keep him there to keep the core and maybe not allowing him to blossom into what should have been the fairy tale story, so to speak.
Yes, well, I tore my ACL at Rangers and I stopped playing football. I wasn't playing for like about some years, about 7 or 8 years, and then the strike should call me in 89. That's 88,
David Galley in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
They told me that they wanted a dribbler. I was like, okay. So I said, well, if you check in the interview, I told them, I said like, maybe they didn't have a choice. Maybe I was the only person maybe available. But I told them I couldn't play because I tore my ACL and I was like, it didn't tear, it burst. So my used to go like this and lock. So it got straightened back. And they offered to send me to Dr. Terry Ali, the consultant from the General Hospital, and he did experimental surgery in it. And it really worked. So after that, I started back. He take a tendon from my leg and make back the ACL. And since that, it did no need to really give no problem at all. I started back to play. I played with ACM Motown. Elements.
Elements, yeah.
I ended up playing against, well, that's the first time I met Latapi. We were playing for Elements. We were playing them in, he was playing for Chintok. I was playing for, we was in the FA quarter-final or something like that, and up at Arima Stadium. We were warming up on one side of the field, they were warming up on the next side. Latapi left and came up to me and shake my hand and say, well, I said, come on, watch you play and stuff, and, really adopt your style and, when I watch Latapi, I see myself too, because we had the same demeanor, the same movement, and the shoulders, and the running in spaces and dribbling, and I think basically we had he really emulate my style almost to perfection. But I say, and he's still, and he's a person I really admire too. He's by the time he came and told me that, I said this guy going to be a professional footballer because that's his demeanor and how he spoke to me, and I used to watch him play college too, and I always known he would have become a professional, and it really happened. So,
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, I want you to tell me what now in hindsight, what would you have wished happened in your career? Are you happy with how it went and ended, or what would you have liked to see as a continuation? Viewers will be right back after the short break.
I was just playing football. That is all I was thinking about, would have gotten me on a national team. But coincidentally, as all these guys at this guy called Tola Guerra and Joven Jones and Molino, you believe like me and Sellers be responsible for all these players getting to that level of the game. And somehow that is like a payback for, I see it as that, because, they refuse.
You're watching ACTN, The Voice. ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
Welcome back, viewers. Ian, now that you know you're good, everybody's have you as the best thing after sliced bread, man.
Okay.
There's no Archibald or De Leon or Cummins or whoever. CLAUZEL. And now you're starting to get hiccups or jealousy of other players. Now you get into the real world. It's not college no more. So what would you have liked to see that you didn't see or didn't get in your career?
Okay, like, what I see happen to like Dwight York and these guys and them, at that time I don't think it had the opportunity and the know-how to really get to go outside the play, because I think after playing all this football, I decided, I said, I'd love to go and play international football, because this is why I sit on my television home and see, English Premier League. And so I would say I love to be in that place like that playing, because, all the hype and all this crowd. But, it never really materialized, because maybe the first thing I had to say is that having a dread, it was a hindrance to me. That was like the first thing. Mm-hmm. And then, not as a person, don't really like associate with too much of people now, I love people, but to say, well, mingle with, federation people and, like football agents, or I didn't have any football agents at that time to say, well, like, oh, this guy.
Well, let me ask you, if your dread was a hindrance, would you have gotten rid of it if that was the problem?
Not necessarily.
You would keep it?
Because I see that as a religious relief. Belief, it's not like...
So that's part of you?
Because they say I can play football and, have a dread, I'd cut my dread to play. I cut my dread, same football I'll play. So,
right.
It come like being a Muslim and, they're telling you like, they can't priest and, so that never really...
So that didn't cross your mind?
No.
Okay.
I'm still a Rastafarian. Maybe I don't have a long dread again, but Rastafarian is a belief.
But I mean, and people saying that doesn't mean... You had broke that mold when you were in school anyway, and you played with it, and it. So that wasn't beyond school.
Yeah.
So you would have liked to. You'd have liked to be turned pro, and go outside and play like we did, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that, but I didn't have the assistance and the know-how to really do it. At that time, because I was a young person and. There are no agents like, oh, this guy is an agent. Now we could, call on this guy and say, well, you're a good player to try and send out and, make a sale or, get him to go somewhere. It wasn't like that,
Back then was the national team.
Yes.
You had to make the national team,
right.
And then you get discovered.
Yeah. Well, if I didn't get a chance to play national team,
right?
How could they send me out? So it's like that,
That's where you run into the bottleneck.
Yes, exactly.
So did that discourage you?
Of course. Watching the national team play and some guys I watch playing and I say, but like these guys are a joke to me, man, and these guys are national players.
Right.
And I was like, even people used to say, like, CLAUZEL, how they ain't picking me for this team? I say, but these people are their own like philosophy about everything. So maybe,
Who was our national players then?
At that time was players like Garfield De Silva and Tuku and
I never heard of them.
Different, yeah. Them is they what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying? The only players I play against them in college, but some of them move on because of the affiliation or who they know, and one or two guys from St. Mary's, and these people know the 1% and shit, so it's like that, But I was never into like sucking up to people and going to people and begging them to, I live my life like, what's supposed to happen to me, for me, it will happen for me. I don't want to go and beg somebody to make something happen for me, I just accept life as it comes to me. So I was just like, in my own zone, and I feel, what I think is that just playing the game would make that happen for me. Just playing a good game all the time, people will say that this guy is a player, but it wasn't like that because it had a discrimination between that, so it was never a full contact with me. There was something between me and somebody because I had to watch out my appearance but
I think,
yeah,
something to touch on that would give some relevance to the situation is you were at your time and playing 77, 78, I guess it was a very pivotal moment in terms of the makeup of the national team, because we see where you would say things or you would mention the colleges were in the colleges league. You were not having secondary
Yeah.
schools,
It was the colleges
senior
league,
comprehensive,
yes.
it was the colleges. So schools outside of that mold weren't necessarily the dominant force. And then today, you know, at least from my era, and before and now after, there are secondary schools, you know, there was a generation of the Arima Senior Comprehensive, Princeton, you had, you know, you have Mokorapo, who were dominant forces. So the league is just a premier league. If you could play, no matter what level of education or schooling, you're allowed. And then we look at even the makeup of the national team where, you know, at that time you were seeing there was a limitation, and some person spoke on Mokorapo having great players, but not being fully integrated into a national team. They always had a limit on how many players. You would see maybe the prestige schools having 3, 4, but not the so-called non-prestige ones. But then today you look at the national team setup, and you have, I could call Kevin Molino, Highland, Atulagir, all these guys who all went to Mokorapo.
Yes, and coincidentally,
Be in the core of the national team, you know. So it really shows that it could have been the timing of when you bring in this non-traditional school, the community you came from, the Rastafarian hairstyle and belief not being accepted, you know, just maybe 30 years ago. And then today it being more or less everything. Guys on the national team have Rastafarian hairstyle.
Whites and blacks.
Quite a lot of them, you know, all over.
So maybe he broke barriers.
That's the
Well, maybe,
consideration.
I sometimes I call myself the sacrificial lamb for this because, you know, I go through all of this stuff and I seen like everybody know with that dreads and stuff from all in England, all over Europe, and, you know. But sometimes this is how life comes to you. So, you know, I just had to accept that and move on.
Any regrets?
No, not necessarily, because I wouldn't regret anything because I never cut my dread. I never suck up to people to say, well, I never tried to do things that I ain't supposed to do to get on a national team. I was just playing football. That is all I was thinking about, would have gotten me on a national team. But, you know, coincidentally, as all these guys at this guy, you know, called Otola Guerra and Joven Jones and Molino, you know, you believe, like, me and Sellers, we responsible for all these players getting to that level of the game. And somehow that is like a payback for, you know, I see it as that, you know, because, you know, they refused me at that time, and the secondary school players, you know, like myself, and now all these secondary school players now, and I am just glad to be a part of producing these players and them to get them to the next level. All these players playing outside of Trinidad, they ain't playing in Trinidad. So that is a kind of that's a kudos to me, you know. Me and Sellers, we love that, and it's just more than that, even more players than that. We have a player called Keaton Highland, who's playing Czechoslovakia. We have Garnet Roach in Malta. Yeah. So, you know, we've been producing all the professional players, and, you know, you believe me and Sellers, we never get called for a national team to coach a national youth team or anything like that.
Oh, you work with Sellers?
Yeah, you know, me and Sellers been there since I was there in 1998, and Sellers came the year after me. Mokorapo, so I've been working since that time.
I mean, Sellers could have helped you through, because to me, playing outside in the U.S.,
of course,
Sellers was a lot better than they give him credit for.
Yes, exactly.
And
he's a no-nonsense
he
man
got
also.
victimized as well.
Yeah.
Because other players who wasn't as good as him.
Yes, you know, I learned a lot from Sellers, and I hope that he learned a lot from me too. But, you know, Sellers mightn't be a qualified coach with papers, really, but he has the game here.
He knows it.
But I'm the person with the papers.
Right.
So we work in tandem with that, and, you know, we achieve a lot of things. He tell me, you go and do what you want, because, you know, I know exactly what I'm doing. We have a philosophy of play, and, you know, we like to play the ball around. We like to, you know, we have a Barcelona philosophy then. We like the tiki-taka football. Yeah. And this is why I think we got so recognized as a college team. Everybody kicking our ball along the road running, not we like to bring it and bring it out. Yeah. And I think that was the difference between us and these rest of schools, you know. But eventually we had to move on, and our players had to move on. But I'm not there neither. I'm not there again, and Sellers isn't there. So I wouldn't expect us to be producing any players in the near future, because the philosophy has changed. About a new player, a new coach there, and he seemed to have his own philosophy about the game. But his philosophy was about winning, but he's about taking players from one level to the next. That was me and philosophy, taking the player from one level and take them to the next level. That's why we produce all these professional footballers. But the coach that is there now, he just want to win the college league and see, well, he coaches team. And so.
I want to add one more thing as you were asking him about kudos or, returns. Mokarapo has a house named after you.
Yep.
Is that something that you feel pride in?
Of course. Even when we come to I was telling about the Hall of Fame they offered me in the college league, and by Mokarapo doing that for me, I think I accept that more than getting a Hall of Fame for Trinidad for college league football. Because, I was telling him, the boss, that, Hall of Fame, why are you giving me Hall of Fame? I wanted to represent my country when I was at the peak of my game, when my equilibrium was flowing with football, and they disallow me to play. Why you want to give me a Hall of Fame now? Mm-hmm. Because you see the masses made that decision, maybe because the masses say, but this player is the best player we see in a while. So I for the masses. But these people and them, they're very strange, man. I just can't explain it sometimes. It's so hurtful, And I just want to touch on one thing too, the state of the football in Trinidad. I think it's appalling right now, and I see these people. Sometimes when I see football now, it's more like reading in the papers about some courthouse case with somebody, and I'm not seeing anything about development programs or anything happening in the game, It's just about politics and a lot of crap. But, I think, these administrators in this country, they think they are more important than footballers. I don't know why that's happening. Everybody want to just come in a position and feel like they could gain from it. But these people, they are not on the development of the game in Trinidad, Because if you don't have a primary school league, come on. You must have a primary school league because they're the nest, they're the egg nest. Because when players move on, players have to fall into the system. I think we need to get a philosophy of play and all. A culture how we play the game. Mm-hmm. Because, I see we need changing coach and it's all kind of the last qualifying games with Trinidad. They're having Kenwin Jones up front. They're playing with 5 midfielders, they're playing a 3-5-1. But the wing backs and them only kicking the ball over the midfielder and they're playing with 5 midfielders. What kind of nonsense is that? Mm-hmm. So I just want to know what these people really studying, what they're watching. And, I think people like yourself and the older fellas who know about the game, you all need to get involved in this football and, try and put pride forward, put things in place and, let me move on. We have to start back from here again because right now we rock bottom, Mm-hmm. And then we want to oppose FIFA. And I think there's a lot of nonsense. Because we know, all of them know the rules of FIFA. Why are you opposing FIFA in court and making it reach high court too? Come on. You're digging your own grave. And they were supposed to understand that. And maybe it's one person tried to have the agenda, but it affects the whole country when the results come back. Because, FIFA say, okay, well, they're banning us. So no college football, no this, no. So thousands of people that are like, okay, we got to wait until this ban passes. And, come on. We done already lost so much time already in the game. Why are we going to get banned now for another 2 years or whatever? I think there's a lot of crap and, I just see what it is when I see something and it's crap, I just say it's crap. Mm-hmm. Crap can be something good. So I just talk plain and, I love the game, I'm very passionate about the game. And, I think these people should get a little more passionate about the game instead of themselves. The game is not about me, the game is about the people who I work with, the kids and them. That is what the game is about. They rather get at in the understanding. Or else footballing will go nowhere.
So my advice to you would be, there's things you can't control. Don't even worry about it. If you get victimized, don't worry about it. But now you can give back to the game what you could have got out of it. You can give it back to some other kid to live your dream.
Yes. Well,
so that should be your passion now to do that.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
I mentioned something previously when we spoke, as he touched on an offer for the Hall of Fame. And I said, the Hall of Fame may have been given by persons who maybe were not in favor at the time. It may have been public pressure. But the plus in, if ever accolades like that are presented, in accepting is just for the story to continue. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be about who offers it, why they're offering it, but the fact that if it's there, 10 years, 20 years down the road, somebody could read on the story. Because us having this program with you is for us to have another documented information about the legacy that you left. The fact that for whether 2 years, 3 years, whether it was a 10-year career or whatever, people speak about 18,000 people in the Queen's Park Oval to watch a game between you guys,
And that's an understatement, 18,000
Right.
understatement.
you know, at a college level, and everybody coming to see you from Diego Martin, Cocorite, Belmont coming together. I think that is something we need to keep in our Trinidad and Tobago football history and not let it disappear.
Of
So
course.
that is why we have in these sort of things. And you have to take your praise for that, breaking a taboo that today everybody's beneficial from, even if you were the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
But as Steve said, in going forward is to ensure that that platform that you had to sacrifice is beneficial to everybody else.
Okay, I appreciate that.
You know, again, you are done as, because I'm talking about public opinion, the best college footballer that passed through this country. That in itself is enough for you to go and feel good about. Because we had great players go through
Yeah,
this.
I know that.
And people leave their jobs and homes and them to go see you play. I'm so glad I met you, because I never saw you play. I wish I did. But I'm so glad I met you, because I think just listening to you, I feel your story. Because in Point B, in South, we say we get victimized from our national team, because we from South. But we broke that mold. We had 9 players in the 73 team from Point. So we broke that mold. But we fight through that. So, and you've done a good job in maintaining your sanity. So keep it up, and I wish you all the best. I want to thank you for being here. Appreciate you, and we will do whatever we can to make sure that you live somebody live your dream for you.
Okay. I appreciate
Viewers,
it.
thank you for giving us, for tuning in every Monday night, and we do repeat on a Tuesday at 1 and also a Saturday at 1. ACTN, thanks for giving us the opportunity. The show is ended. Go in peace. My name is Steve David.